After the long hot summer days, the weather has finally changed. The temperature has dropped, it is gloomy outside and it's raining. I don't mind it because I can spend some cozy sewing days in my studio. I've had an old bedsheet in my stash for years that I've always wanted to make into a fall dress, but I never got around it. Until now, because in this episode I will sew an Emery dress with satin sleeves. I also modified the front bodice pattern to create a collar. The bedsheet has a kind of stripe pattern which I want to use thoughtfully. From the top part of the bedsheet I will make the skirt, from the middle part the bodice, and I try to use the floral stripe at the bottom for the sleeves. I cut off the fabric for the skirt and put it aside because I wanted to work on the bodice first. Then I cut off the serged edge of the remaining bedsheet to separate the two sides. I took one side of the fabric and cut out the bodice, the front and back bodice and the front facing. I also marked the darts on the front and back bodice pieces. Before sewing the darts in, I created the opening on the front bodice. I haven't made a collar like this in a while, so I pulled out my craft book for reference. I ironed some interfacing on the front facing and overlocked the outer edges. Then, with right sides together, I pinned the facing on the front bodice. I marked the required lines and then I sewed along them. I cut along the middle one and pressed the facing into place. Then I finished the edges along the shoulders and neckline. The next step was to pin and sew the darts. I also sewed the front and back bodies together, first at the shoulders, then on the sides. Lately I don't sew the zipper on the back of the dress, but on the side, so on the left side I sewed only about 5 centimeters. The main part of the bodice was ready, so I cut out the sleeves. I used the floral stripe of the bedsheet as the border of the sleeve. I sewed the side seams together and base stitched between the notches along the sleeve cap. Then I fit the sleeves into the armholes, stitch them, and finish the seam allowance by overlocking the edges. Then I had to make the collar to finish off the bodice. I folded the neckline and made a notch in the middle so I could measure the length of the collar. I used another collar pattern as a basis, I just needed to adjust the length. I don't know if that is the correct way to make it, but it worked for me. First I made a test version from scrap fabric, but the measurement was right, so I used this piece for the under collar. I cut the upper collar from the floral stripe. I ironed interfacing on the back and marked the stitch line at the corner to help me when sewing. I sewed the two collar pieces together. I trimmed the seam allowance in half, turned the collar right side out and pressed it. Then I sewed the collar on the bodice. I like how this dress is coming along. It was enough sewing for today, but I did some crochet. I'm still working on the crochet pullover. The front and back are done, I only need to make the sleeves and some finishing touches. Making the sleeves is a bit of a challenge because I didn't like the shape of the sleeve when crocheting from the pattern, so now I make it up as I go. But I'm not an expert and it takes time to find the perfect shaping of the sleeve. The next day I continued sewing. I was working on the skirt of the dress. 3 sides of the fabric were stitched closed, therefore I cut the longer side and the left side open, so I got a long strip of fabric. To make it easier for me, I made 2-inch wide box pleats. I marked every inch at the top of the fabric, so I only had to fold it and didn't have to measure every pleat. I started folding the pleats in the middle of the fabric and pinned it carefully so it doesn't fall apart. After I finished pinning the pleats, I base stitched them to keep them in place. This took a while with all the pins. Then I pinned the skirt to the bodice and stitched them together and finished the seam allowance by overlocking the edges. The next step was to sew in the invisible zipper, which is my least favorite task in garment making. After that, I also stitched the left side seam together. Then I finished the sleeves. I overlocked the edges, folded back about 1 centimeter and stitched it. After that I hemmed the dress. From the bottom I cut off about 20 centimeters because I didn't like the pattern. Then I created a 2 centimeter hem and stitched it. The final step was to hand stitch the undercollar along the neckline, and I pressed the whole dress.